Webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? You know, pistols and fondle slab of choice, and internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources whenever I try to prove out. You know, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions? Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
It's like, damn sure, no, I'm an original. We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out. And all that noise means I'm back live. It is the Ochelli Effect. It is Saturday night. So tonight we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to bring in a couple of people and we're going to have a little bit of a roundtable discussion. Everybody who's listening to me, whether you're in the chat room or you're just picking me up on TuneIn or whatever it is that you're using to take a listen to UCY.TV radio right now, you are all welcome to join in, sound off, do what you got to do. Let's see what happens. I'm going to bring in a couple of guys at some point here that are from a couple other radio networks also, and I invited a lot. I'm not sure who's showing up exactly, but we're going to find out real quick. Let's see now. And as always, I have my fun trying to manipulate things while I'm talking. Let's see if we can get Dylan on.
Hey.
Hey, Dylan, how you doing?
Pretty good. Is there a delay? Because I was just listening to it. And it sounded like you were still opening.
Yeah, it's there's a delay between the broadcast and what you and I are hearing right now. So you might want to shut off the player for a minute if you went to the page.
Yeah, I shut it off when you called.
All right, great. So here's the thing. Like I said, we're going to see who else joins us, and we've put out a lot of invites, but also to the listeners, if you want to join us tonight, 718-717-8296. You can dial that, and I will add you into the call right away. So, we put out a lot of invites, and not sure who's coming today, but I was talking to you, and I was wondering if you wanted to introduce yourself to my audience, tell them who you are, what it is you're trying to do, and where you're at.
I'm Dylan. I run a radio network called The Truth Speaks, and the point of our show is to wake up teenagers to what's really going on.
Yeah, that's definitely an important thing because I'm always kind of faced with the problem of trying to get the younger generation involved in this because guys that are my age, it seems, are becoming aware more and more. You're making a little bit of noise there, Dylan, with the mic. So
sorry, my mic was really close to my shirt. I moved it.
No problem. I was just wondering if you were aware. Yeah, so, we're always faced with this problem of trying to bring the youth into our way of thinking and trying to get them to understand that the world around them is not exactly as it's meant to appear based on the programming as it is. So, I'll tell you what I saw just before I went to air, and I wasn't aware of this earlier today, but I guess this happened earlier today. The unidentified remains of victims from 9/11 were actually interred today at the memorial site.
Really?
Did you happen to catch that?
I did not.
Well, also, briefly, there was a little blurb on the news there about 9/11 victims' families being present and protesting by placing black tape over their mouths because they were allowed no input into where these pouches of remains that have been in the possession of the medical examiner's office for over a decade now. They had no input into the disposition of the remains. And like I said, there was a small protest there. I'm not sure how large. I know I saw in some of the clips really quickly that there was a few of them standing there with the black tape over their mouths. And you know what? It just speaks to what the problem is here, as far as I'm concerned, because I know that they were, more concerned with the disposition of like I said, these actual remains of people that died there, and again, the unidentified, unclassified, sort of remains. But
well, those would probably expose one lie at least.
Well, that's a guarantee. I mean, we talk a lot of times about how, the metal and everything else was chopped up and dragged away right away.
And how it had thermites in it? I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah, well, we have a caller, and 901. Go ahead.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, not a problem.
It's James Impending.
That's right, James Impending.
Hey, James.
NWO Truth Radio Network. James Impending, he does quite a few shows over there, actually, and works on a lot of stuff. A couple of interesting roundtable discussions over there this week, in fact. But anyway, James, what we were talking about was the fact that the remains of the unidentified victims were interred today at the memorial, the 9/11 memorial in New York City, and that there were families that were protesting there with black tape over their mouths. Did you see anything about that?
I haven't, no, I can't swear that I have, brother. I've been working super, like 14 hours a day. I hadn't been up on what I needed to be on. But, I just want to, tell me about it, because I haven't heard anything.
Well, it would just happen to be a clip I passed by on my way, getting ready for the show, and I noticed that the New York Times, the, LA Times, and a few other places had published about it. I think CBS News has a clip on it. But the mainstream is definitely ignoring the. I think it's very interesting that it was done on a Saturday, first of all. But the second thing is that they occasionally are mentioning and showing little clips of, like I said, the family members that were there with the black tape over their mouths because they're not being allowed any input into the disposition of these pouches that were returned in three American flag draped caskets that contained the pouches of mixed remains that have been in the New York City medical examiner's office now for a decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. I mean, Dylan was just about to tell us how he thinks that that would uncover at least one lie if they actually did allow them to participate in this kind of stuff. And it looks like there's details being released about this now that the victims' families will be allowed to visit the center and be able to visit where the remains are interred separately from the rest of the public, I guess. But some of them are pretty angry because, it's being put into a museum as opposed to being respectfully handled and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why it makes me so angry, but what do you think about it?
Well, if you have something like this happen and you never get closure, you're always going to have that in the back of your head. Families need closure. Families need to be able to bury their family members and know that they did the best they possibly could for them. They don't need to sit on some shelf somewhere. I mean, that's somebody's kid.
What it is it's sick. It's then it's basically withholding evidence in a way, but it's also withholding, like you said, James, people's kids, people's loved ones from them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else. It's not like we're dealing in the era where the unknown soldier was entombed. You know, there are ways to identify people, and I know that some of this stuff came down to very small fragments and all that, but I mean, bottom line is, you know, what kind of a message is this supposed to send when we're just, you know, putting in mixed pouches of remains into the so-called 9/11 memorial? You know, I find it distasteful at best.
But I was going to say, I mean, we're not totally sure that nuclear explosives weren't put in place to bring that building down.
I think we're pretty much certain that something other than what we know of was used.
Well, thermite plasma is a small nuclear explosion, basically, and that's why the cars all caught on fire outside. They caught on fire from the inside because when a nuclear bomb goes off, it emits an EMP and fries the hardware around it. But to me, it seems like it may be a health hazard more than anything else.
Yeah, see, I'm not so sure about the whole, you know, I've heard the ideas about the micro nukes and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, the use of thermite is definitely something to be suspicious of. But, you know, I don't know if it's a health hazard necessarily, because I'm sure those caskets were definitely sealed up and all that kind of stuff.
Well, also, it's been a decade. The hazard of it probably went away at this point.
Not if it's nuclear. Radiation never goes away.
No, theoretically, if it was nuclear, right. I mean, the half-life on that is hundreds of years at least, right?
Okay,
right.
You're right. If it was you're right. If it was nuclear, then it still would be around. But are we sure it was?
Health hazard-wise, is if it was a nuclear deal, then, you know, those remains, in my personal aspect, need to be shot in outer space so they can't harm anybody.
Yeah, not put. If they're nuclear, they shouldn't be put in a memorial where everyone will be visiting.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true, because, you know, we don't want to contaminate the living with the dead, that's for certain, but I really still don't believe that there would be radioactivity in the remains at this point. It just doesn't seem possible to me, but, you know, that's my opinion.
It's very respectful to put all these people in the same baggie, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they were individual people with individual families.
Right, exactly where I was going. We were individuals.
That's where I'm getting angry about it, because it just seems to me like it's just a disgraceful way to dispose of people, you know? How revolted do we get over mass graves and things when we see news stories about that, you know?
We argue over the cause of death all the time, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is how they're handling it.
Oh, yeah. But that's what I'm saying, you know, when you see mass graves and things, you generally think of that as entirely revolting, you know, just in general. We just think about that term for a moment and think about what that really evokes in a person.
Also, Chuck, can you clarify if it was a memorial or the museum?
They're saying that it's the 9/11 memorial, but it's the part of it that's underground by 70 feet or so.
Right. See, that's another suspicious way of handling things.
Yeah, I would leave it. If you're gonna put it in like a massive site, leave it for everyone to see. What?
Yeah, because I mean that could be. There might not even be a bag if you don't actually get to put your eyes on it.
Well, the families do, from what I understand.
Well, you know, I don't know how many of their family members are forensic pathologists who could say, yeah, okay, well, that looked like or that was so-and-so. Well, these people are led by emotion.
Mm-hmm. That's true, and I'll tell you something else. The idea that you know, cement was so heavily pulverized in that process, let's just call it that for now, You can't expect that there's probably very much of these individuals remaining. There's probably very small fragments of bone and things like this. Much like we would see when you deal with cremated remains, which are not ashes, by the way.
Correct.
So
I'm right there with you on that, because I mean, this building had tons of sheetrock, tons of concrete, all those things. When they break down, if you were to tell, even some of my capability, I can't tell you, if something's been burned up and is crusted, and I couldn't tell you the difference between a chicken bone and a finger bone if it came down to it. If you burned it and then brought it to me in a bunch of concrete and broke down drywall, things of this nature that are powdery and crushed in their likeness anyway, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference. So that's another point that I would look at is it even people? Is it just a bunch of crushed up limestone that they have treated and done things with, and they show you, look, this was your family? I believe they should be able to take them and have them tested.
Well, that was one of the points that came up originally when they started digging up these small pieces, through the rubble, through the remains of the buildings. And, it became a matter of cost, as far as I understood, that there was a problem with testing each individual little piece for, say DNA or whatever.
Right.
Which is understandable.
You don't accidentally put up a piece of concrete that you think is a person, not in theory anyway.
Right. So, let's see now. I was just taking a look at the chat room to see how active it was, but I don't see anybody really chiming in here too much. The thing is, just looking at this situation, though, you do bring up a good point that we're not always allowed to look at this stuff. There's no way of knowing really what's in those caskets, because we did see the caskets, but we didn't see the pouches. So the idea that there's even a pouch in there is something that we're taking on their word, I guess.
Right. And it's something that, with the corrupt way things have been handled ever since this happened, we should be able to have solid evidence, not just somebody's hearsay.
Yeah, we are definitely in the post-trust era here as far as any of these activities go relating to 9/11. Relating to anything, really, but 9/11 specifically.
Yeah,
so,
exactly right. And I mean, there's a countless amount of other situations that, were handled quite poorly, too. Why we ever expected the truth out of any administration has boggled my mind for as long as I've been able to fathom having that thought.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, it's kind of strange to ask pathological liars to tell you the truth. It is a weird sort of concept.
It's their religion.
Oh, well, that's a good possibility. So Dylan, back to what we were talking about to begin with what you're doing, and how I just think it's extremely important to get younger people involved in all this, and to get them really thinking for themselves. What would you say, being that you're a younger person, is the most difficult thing when it comes to trying to get people your own age to utilize stuff like critical thought to examine situations like this?
Well, it's the hardest thing with any person. It's getting them to realize that the system they were brought up on is not only broken, but it's out to get them.
Yeah, see, James and I have talked about that before, that, we came into a world where we sort of didn't always think the way that we do now. And with good reason, because we watched over the course of our lifetimes how the whole thing descended into theater instead of the reality of people that were supposed to be looking out for the people's interests.
Yes, exactly right. The people that you've always grown up being told to respect and not to question are the same people who are trying to get you, trying to poison your mind, poison your body,
and
pay all the
they're
taxes,
succeeding.
support my habit, support my problems. I don't like Iran. I don't like Syria. I don't like Russia. So I'm going to use your money to fulfill my endless war dreams. And it's sickening.
Yeah, and that's the problem is people don't want to believe it.
Oh, why would they do that, Dylan? Why would they do that? Why would the government want to kill everybody?
That's the question I got every time. So let's go into can we go into the answer to that?
Chuck, it's your show, brother.
You go right ahead, man. It's you're on.
Well, it's simple. They want 80, probably 90% of us to die off. For profit purposes. Everything is for profit in this world.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you find this happens a lot more than the news media ever wants to get out, but even when you try to have somebody cremated, there are mortuaries out there that will remove the organs and sell them on the black market. And your death, Dylan's absolutely right, your death costs about $10,000. But they can make $150,000 off of you after you die because of what you have to offer. You have a good heart, good kidneys, straight liver,
belongings.
Those things are expensive. Yeah, don't be an only person. Don't have an heir for your stuff because then the government will take that too.
Gold. Land. That's really what it's all about.
We don't own a speck of land. We don't own anything. Buy your house, buy your land. Don't pay the taxes on it, just take it from you. You don't own things. Slaves can't own property.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But, the other question I always get from people, or the other counter argument I always get from people is it can't happen here.
Well, if it's happening somewhere else, you can bet your sweet apple bottom that it's going to be coming here if you don't stop it.
It's absolutely true.
The argument I use against it is all the places it's happened. China, Russia, Germany, Spain, Italy, France.
We've added in another caller, 207. Go ahead.
Hey, I got on there. That's awesome. Hey, I had a question. I wanted, you answered the question as it's all about profiteering, but I really have a hard time believing that because they print the money and now they want to go to a credit system, so therefore they already own the profit. So the purpose of us dying off isn't, I don't think, necessarily for profit.
No, sir, you're right.
There seems to be a hierarchy. I mean, once you follow the money trail to the end, then what is it?
Well, go ahead, Chuck.
Well, no, Dylan was talking. Go ahead, Dylan.
Well, that's a fair point, but I think that you're right, they do have all of it, but they have to give the illusion that they don't by distributing currency that's not there, like the dollar.
That's what I'm saying. So it's an illusion, and they're losing this illusion. So therefore, now we're on to kind of a track here. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
yeah.
A little bit into that.
The illusion is quite often.
110%. They own all the money. The Rothschilds themselves are worth $700 trillion. That's enough.
So basically killing us off has nothing to do with profit. Really, if you want profit, you want more people. But the thing is, their illusion of profit is failing.
Now it's about control.
Now it's about control.
Yeah.
And that leads further down the hole. Why control? That sounds like a religious affair.
Well, when you talk about controlling one economic system that is strong and healthy right now is what they want. Creating a one world currency is the most profitable thing, and to do that, you need, like James was saying, control.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, the illusion is being propped up for more of the sake of the illusion, and don't forget to take into account that these individuals are not always united. You look at certain aspects of this; they're fighting with each other, and
of course,
that's a whole other aspect of it too. Can I lay out my own personal belief? I've been kind of trying to study this for a while, and I just want to lay out a belief before I just let you guys continue. Because you guys got me sparked up on the whole money thing, because I really don't believe that at all. Because they already own it. You see what I'm saying? But my theory is this. I really truly believe that life is based upon conscious expansion and observation, that we are a manifestation of consciousness. And that I think, this is my theory, and I heard this other guy talking about it too, so I think it's something that's just starting to spark up there, is that there's AKA spiritual essence, AKA parasite, feeding off our intelligence, our consciousness. If we manifest things through consciousness, and there's a parasite that is manifesting reality through our consciousness, then therefore it has to take us out to control us, in the same sense as we would eat cattle. They eat off our essence.
They want
AKA Satanism.
Everyone.
You know what I mean?
That way you never want to stand up. If I kill off 90% of the population, the ones I keep alive will be so grateful I kept them alive that they'll do anything I tell them.
Exactly. AKA God, in an essence. I'm a firm believer in Christianity, though. So I'm a firm believer in God. So as I step down this path, I find that it sounds like it's a parasite, man. It has the exact same, conniving skills as, if you look up any kind of research of a parasite, it manipulates your mind to think and to nurture the parasite.
No.
So is Satanism not a parasite? That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's the basis
parasite.
for what they're... but what you were just saying is the basis for what they want, but they're just not calling it that.
And I'll tell you this, the mechanism by which, that you're identifying as Satanism, okay? The mechanism by which...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Everybody has a word. I mean, it could be anything. Evil. The opposite of doing righteousness to another. Whatever you want to call it. Everybody's got a name for it, but everybody in their soul knows exactly what it is. If I go and rob you blind, I know I'm doing bad. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
We were discussing this earlier, in fact, about, the ideas of getting caught up in religion and being divided by that. And we talked about that off the air. But the thing is that it rings true. It doesn't really matter what your particular belief system tells you. We all know that there is something wrong and there is something feeding off of us. That is a guarantee. So whether you want to describe it as, reptilians from off-world, or you want to describe it as demons from another dimension.
Well, you can go all the way to the Indians, and they talk about, what is it, Kala, K-I-L-A, or Y, or something like that. The goddess that dances on the bodies of her devotees.
Right.
It sounds like she's sucking the life out of people that worship her.
Yeah.
So, is this not why God says, thou shalt not worship false idols? Thou shalt not make no engraven images of anything? Because God is consciousness, the manifestation of all things. And this parasite is using our manifestation of all things to keep us trapped in AKA matrix-like sense. They actually had a scientist come out and prove that we are living, well, not prove, but he said at the lowest specular molecules, it seems like there's a code, a digital code embedded in the DNA of things.
I read
there's
about
actually
that
a matrix.
Yeah,
I found a matrix in it.
I read that, and I agree with the theory, but he wasn't able to back it up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you think about science, what is science but the study of the natural world around us, right? So what's more important, science or the natural world around us, which science is studying?
The world around us.
Because
there will be nothing.
So not everything can be explained. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not looking for an exact explanation. I'm just looking for a general, guidance basis.
Well, I agree with you in concept. I think that what he said has some credibility to it. It has some credence. I mean, there's actually value in looking into that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's a lot of things that scientists look into that they we don't exactly have the answer, so screw it, I guess. But then again, you have the God particle, a piece of energy, a particle of energy that has no known source of energy. You know?
I didn't know about that
Higgs.
one.
Oh, you didn't know about the God particle, man? Oh, it's like the tangent of what all material matter is made from. Say, like fish swim in water, and water's like the medium for fish to swim in. Well, this God particle is like the medium what all matter is based in.
Yeah, it's flashes of light on the subatomic level.
It's consciousness, man. It's consciousness.
You can't
think about it. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, right? That's the equal of the formula. So you have to equal it on every side of the equation, right? So if you take light and speed it up, aka an atomic bomb, right? But you can also take light and slow it down into mass. And that is the study of what nuclear energy is the study to learn how to slow light down into making and manifesting mass out of nothing.
Correct. It's 4-bit code. It is 3-dimensional coding into the cells that make up matter.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, this is so beyond me.
So it's flashes of light. When you go into an atom and you go into the subatomic world inside an atom, it is literally flashes of light that cannot be pinpointed. Therefore, what your man right here just said is absolutely true. Flashes of light slowed down make mass. Flashes of light speed up make images.
Exactly.
Yep. This is
therefore, what we're experiencing is the observation of consciousness. That is what God is the observation of consciousness.
Being able
when you learn this is how you protect yourself from a parasite infesting your mind. Or Satanism, or whatever you want to call it. I really, truly, I'm on this theory right now where it's a parasite. It's a parasite because Christ says that we are God-like. And in the garden, Satan takes that away from us and traps us into a box. And he says he will eat the dust of the earth. Now, God says we were made from the dust of the earth. And snakes don't eat dirt on the ground. You see what I'm saying? So it's a snake, parasite-like creature, eating of the dust of the earth, a.k.a. man, hence the Bible right there saying it in black and white. Only it takes a more spiritual understanding.
Oh, brother, I'm going to go as far as to agree with you there because I've heard many a sermon preached on the fact that demons and such, I'm a pretty good Bible scholar myself. These demons are denied form. Denied
form. So they have to possess a form.
Right. And they float around in the air like germs, like parasites.
Correct. And look at the snake wrapped around the staff. We are the connection to the Creator, to all energy, right? Yep. And the parasite is wrapped around that, trying to manifest itself through us. That's my personal belief. All right, I'm going to hop off the phone and let you guys just rip it from here. All right. Hey, cool. I do a small show, but we got completely, shut down.
Well, I tell you what, listen, I don't know what time zone you're in, but you are more than welcome. Tonight I am on NWO Truth Radio at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know. My buddy's a huge fan of you guys, and that's how I got linked into this little show right here. And I'm like, because now that we're kind of shut down, I just spend my time kind of listening to other people rant and rave about stuff.
And you're also welcome to come on my show whenever you want.
I'll hit you guys up through my buddy and stuff, and we'll set something up or whatever, and I'll come in and rant for you guys or whatever.
I think
I'm
you
going to hop
enjoy-
off the phone and let you guys do this thing, all right?
All right,
You're
man.
welcome.
Look, great call. Thanks for calling in.
Love
I
and
really
peace.
appreciate
Love
it.
and peace.
Absolutely,
Later.
always. Take care, brother. Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
say, he brought up some really interesting stuff, and it was it is mind-boggling, really, to think about the fact that we are getting to a point where we're just beginning to scratch the surface of the very basic tools that allow consciousness to be as it is. And to
Correct.
me, oh, you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I was agreeing with you, brother.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and, all of these things that have come before, we're truly living in a revolutionary time. And, I think that that is quite lost on a lot of people at this point. Again, like I was saying to Dylan, I'm amazed at the way that young people are responding to, what it is we're doing because, the stuff that we're trying to get out there is being ignored by them largely. There's a lot of apathy in the generation that, sadly is part of what Dylan is part of at the moment.
Yeah, trust me, I'm upset about what we've become too.
They never had a chance. They've been mandatorily vaccinated for most of their lives.
Right.
Parents never cared enough to look into these things. They took the government at face value. It's not, don't get me wrong. At a certain age, you have to choose whether or not you're going to be stupid or you're going to be smart.
And that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, we can hold them accountable for a lot of things. I mean, I like to think that I'm proof that.
Against them, Dylan. They really did. They come in the world with 2 strikes against them. They were vaccinated at a young age, which stopped their mind from growing, and then they were lied to their entire lives.
Well, I'm going to tell you there's already 3 strikes against them because most of them are being fed food that's not even food.
Good
point, Chuck.
I like that point too, but I also, Chuck, do you mind if I make a point real quick?
Go ahead, Bill.
Going back to what the caller was saying about being stuck in the Matrix. People are put in that the day they're born, and you have to choose at a certain point which pill to take.
No, that's true. At some point or another, you have to begin to either think for yourself or simply accept what has been forced upon you. And
sadly, most people choose what's forced upon them.
Well, it's true.
It's easier that way. You've been living this way this long. Why would you want to ever change the meager, mediocre, overspending lifestyle that you have been forced into? Doesn't it feel good to spend money?
Here's how I look at it. Here's how I look at this.
It's good to have the best iPhone and the fastest laptop and the hardest internet with the Xbox One. It feels good to be broke and have all these things.
Well, here's how I look at it.
Live for today.
The way I look at it, though, is why live mediocre when there's a better life coming for you? You just have to be smart enough to rise up and fight for it.
Well, see, that's exactly why you're getting involved in this because you're choosing the other pill, But unfortunately, it's very, very hard to break that sort of concentration they have while they're staring down at their fondle slabs or staring at their game controllers or whatever else they're doing. To get them to think and to look at the world around them even is a challenge.
I agree with you entirely, and I think that's where my struggle is getting people to look at it. I guarantee once people actually get their minds off of everything else and just take 25 minutes to look into it, their life will change.
We got another caller, 362 looks like. Go ahead. How you doing?
Not too bad.
So
you want to go ahead and put in a little feedback, if that's all right?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. When I started thinking about what you guys are talking about right now, it's like the problems that are going on and the red pill and the blue pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start thinking about we live in a world that keeps repeating the same stuff over and over again. Like if you look at 70-year-old people, and then so on and so forth. We're all being indoctrinated to keep repeating the same stuff.
And it's like a movie on replay.
Okay. When you start looking at the fact that she said that, you're in the Matrix the moment you're born, it's like a steady stream of a certain kind of consciousness that we're living in. And when you start looking at the world that we're living in, I mean, we need to have a complete different kind of shift of consciousness. Like, that was kind of like the way that I was thinking about it when it comes down to what you guys are saying, is that if you look at our generations, they keep regurgitating the same old stuff. And what we're doing is we need to completely have a different change of consciousness. If you ask anybody, about what's going on in the world, they're going to turn around and tell you, oh, well, what do we do about it? Or there's nothing we can do. And the real fact is that just shows you how far off course we are of humanity from the earth and our entire real purpose of life, which goes along with what you're saying of being a thriving culture. I mean, how can we have a utopia if we're always in this egotistical state of mind of money, being our status quo? You base your entire life of who's great, who's not, based off finance these days. There's no morality anymore. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I just wanted to throw in there, as I'm listening, it's like that. It's the Matrix. It doesn't even just start from you're born. It's like been going on for so long that society is almost like been hijacked consciously.
Well, that is a good point, and there is absolutely nothing I can say that would contradict what you're talking about right there, because the fact of the matter is simply that, the entire consciousness of all of us, and I do count the sleepwalkers among us as us, because we are human beings, all of us.
Collective consciousness.
Collective consciousness, exactly. Yep. And unless we get back to acting together, and unless we get back to trying to do this. I found
out, and I'm going to look more into it, and I think everybody should know that's listening tonight that you, by law, can actually create your own property as a sovereign nation if you want to, by publicly broadcasting it to other countries and going above your own government and letting them know that you claim your own land back to whether it be an old constitution or your new written one or whatever, but you can start your own country. This is what I've been researching. And I think that as we have this revolution progress, this intellectual renaissance that we're in, because, I mean, we're not trying to cause chaos or another World War III. We're not, I mean, if it gets that far, but I don't even see people protesting anymore, and they say that they're afraid. But, again, that goes with the consciousness. How do you know what to really, be afraid? I look at it like this, Are you willing to die for your beliefs that are good, or beliefs? Are you willing to basically die for your beliefs? Or are you willing to live for somebody else's? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I'll tell you a little quick story about that because you just reminded me of it. I never used to have very much respect for, let's just call it the sort of hippie counterculture that rose up in the late '60s, early '70s. I didn't have a lot of respect for them, but when I started to talk to some of the people that had physically thrown themselves in front of things, who had actually protested and gotten themselves dragged into jail and all that kind of stuff. When I was speaking to, there was an author actually. His name is James Douglas, and he wrote the book JFK and the Unspeakable.
Yep.
He told me directly that, if these people which were seeking to control and destroy things were willing to kill and die for their beliefs, that it was equally his idea that he was willing to do whatever was necessary and even to die for his. And his belief system was all about peace. He is part of a religious order and all that, which I don't necessarily agree with. But the man had a lot of sense when it came to, dealing with.
You tend to forget that your government is a religion. You can sit there, I don't claim a Christianity, but hey, our governments are fighting wars for what? Democracy every day and infusing it into other people's countries, which has obviously been a failing process for us, And basically what I'm trying to say in regards to what you're saying is that we as a nation, if we care about our country, if we care about the Constitution, put Christianity aside, put aside Muslim, Indian, whatever you are, you put politics into the same essence, you got the same thing, your freedoms. You're not willing to die for freedom? You're not willing to die for, wanting to be able to push the envelope? I mean, I'm not going to take too much time because I could talk all night, but one of the things that I wanted to push in there is that when you start looking in the fact of people taking into consideration of politics, taking into consideration of freedoms, and making mistakes. I mean, we're getting so limited these days that the chance to make a mistake is completely wrong, and we learn from our mistakes as a human nature. It gives us the process to grow and to also. So you go through the growing process, and then you also have your healing process, and you can't do them both at the same time, And I think we're too much in a healing process to where we're not growing no more. You know what I mean? Like we're going stagnant, like a cancer to our world. Which again is all to do with consciousness. Yeah.
It's funny, James. Doesn't that sound a whole lot like what you were saying to me earlier today?
What's that?
Do what? James, remember we had that conversation earlier off the air. Doesn't that sound a whole lot like what you were saying?
It really does, brother.
I'm glad that you guys had me on, and I believe that we're all tapped in, and it's these private conversations that are not being heard enough, because to dwell within the inner you is to really get the frequency of what's going on. I mean, I always believe, I'll give an example. I believe that no idea or secret is really a secret, and I'll give you a reason why. Have you ever had an idea, and then all of a sudden it comes out 2 years later, and that guy's a millionaire, and you thought of it too, but you never did anything with it? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
You ever had that happen? And
yeah,
so I believe that thoughts are conscious energy too, and they get trapped into the universal energies, and as long as they're there, for the opportunity to be grabbed up, whether it be alternative energy compared to nuclear energy, which is heavily suppressed in the government, DMT, hallucinogens, they link you to your subconscious mind to understand that you are minuscule, and your labels and your clothes and your, entire world of war is really minuscule, and love is all that matters. And, when you have that out in the public, well, that's going to totally destroy any democracy or government or rule of law or anything. Yeah.
See, that's the beauty of it, though, with the shift in consciousness that we're trying to bring to others and trying to introduce. I think it is starting to work. Yeah.
I totally do. They always said it's always a small group of men that change the world. It's not everybody. It's a small group of people paying attention and saying no. And, when you get people like that, they start making waves, And, I mean, right now we got Bundy labeling people that stand up for the Constitution domestic terrorists. So what's it going to take? Either people are going to have an intellectual conscious shift, where we're going to all start marching to the White House and say, you're all effing fired, okay? Or pretty soon people are going to get rounded up in FEMA camps and you're going to see a new Holocaust all over again. That's exactly what's going to happen.
And that's what people have to understand. And when I say that to people, they look at me like I'm crazy. I don't know how to explain it. Hold on.
I can explain it for you. Check it out. Holocaust means sacrificial burnt offering. The Nazis did the same thing. And when you start getting back into what the Nazis did, they were... What's that?
You're one of the few people out there that actually pay attention, sir. You have my respect, because it does. It means burnt sacrifice or burnt offering. And what happens?
Exactly what it means.
Yes.
Well, how do you give something if you don't already have it? A sacrifice is something you deny yourself or you give away.
That's right.
That means Zionists, the Khazarians do, tried to do away with the true Jews and then bombed the true Jews out of their home in Palestine.
That's right. And it's been going on for centuries. In fact, it's been going on in even ancient Aztecs and all the ancient religions. They've been doing it for, dude, it's been going on for so long that people that are like me and you, we're considered serfs. We are the slaves to a society and a pyramid scheme. And I think the moment that man could understand how to control people through, I would say practicing these shamanistic ways, opening their consciousness, understanding the consciousness of the universe, and then tapping into other entities. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you look at what the
not to me.
It does. To a normal person that goes to work every day, and they're like, the world's not going to end. They've been saying that forever.
Could I make a sort of counter argument? Play devil's advocate?
Oh, please do.
Because you don't really have to look into the conscious. All they have to do is play off your fear.
That's right. You got it.
They don't have to open up consciousness. It's not that difficult.
But that is one of the tools, one of the greatest tools that they have learned to use over the, over the millennia. That fear is one of the greatest control mechanisms possible.
I mean, let's go to a recent example, 2012.
Yeah.
Now, how many people wasted so much time and money on that? Because the media told them it's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and it comes up about every 10 years because, Y2K, the 1990s, the Nostradamus predictions. I mean, it is the fear of the world collapsing around them when meanwhile it's already collapsing in slow motion all around them as it is.
It's kind of funny. They're saying it's collapsing over here, but no, it's collapsing over there.
Yes.
Watch my left hand while I do something else with the right.
Well, you got to ask yourself, really, how come every other country around us is up in rioting and going to intense, chaos, except for us?
Well, because here they've mastered fear.
Because what?
They've mastered fear manipulation here.
Yes. I think we are new Nazi Germany. We are like the official new generation of just perfect obedient slaves, and we don't question no longer what our real job is. And,
absolutely.
When you start bringing this conversation up, it's kind of like, when I first started getting into this, people would actually start listening to me. They'd be like, yeah, I think you're right. And then as I started getting further into, knowing more, the more crazier I sounded to them. They're like, you know what, this is unbelievable. Genetically organized food? Chemtrails? What? And then you start sending them to places where it's totally true. Even your government's admitting it to you, and
and they're still not believing it.
They're still in a complete sleep. And you ever seen They Live?
We're sitting here we're sitting here laughing about it, but it really is sad.
I laugh because I've had no choice but to go through all the depressing, emotional down slippage to realize that this is my purpose, informing people like what you're doing. That's why I was like, call in tonight. I'm totally going to have to do that. Because people, it's not about me and you, it's not about whatever great idea that is made by man. It does not go with them when they die. It's the great idea that should live on. And so when we all try to cling to something of fame and fortunes or whatever, we're really clinging to that alter ego of, the really demise of consciousness that makes it to where money's your god. If you don't wear this label, you're not cool. If you don't have Nike shoes, well, you're not hanging around with me.
Well, then I guess I'm really not cool, because I don't care.
But that's the society we're living in,
Oh, I know.
That's
absolutely.
What I said that, maybe 10 minutes ago. I was saying you have to have the best iPhone. It doesn't matter if you're broke and you live check to check. You have to have the best and the brightest color. And it doesn't matter what pay grade you're on. You have to look like you have Gucci and Prada and drive a Mercedes.
You know what? I'm going to throw this in there. You're only carrying an idea. That's all you're carrying. Like I said, how can an idea be so good that somebody claims to it? How does an idea make you who you are? It doesn't. If a good idea is a good idea, like, hey, we shouldn't kill people, that's a pretty good idea.
Agree with there.
You know what I mean? If Ochelli, Chuck was the first person who said that, I'm not going to be like, this famous guy, Chuck, said this. No, eventually, you know what's going to happen? You're going to say it to me. I'm going to live in denial, and then I'm going to suck it in and go through my subconscious mind, and it's going to plant a little seed, and then your words are going to become my words. And that's how it works in the world today.
See, and that's why I said during earlier discussions on a couple other shows about, you know, people say, well, what do you expect to be able to accomplish because, you know, you're banging your head up against this big giant wall, you're banging your head up against the big giant matrix, and you're one voice. And I try to say, you know, the first thing is this. If I make one statement in all the time that I'm out here doing this, and it happens to land in the right place, that's all it takes.
I listened in. I heard you guys. I had a call right away. I tell you what, you're working your magic, okay? I was doing my show. I got a lot of controversy. I ended up having some problems. And but you know what? I believe that I was making waves too, and I'm still going to continue doing it on other situations independently. And I commend you, bro. Don't ever stop what you're doing. I'm sure you have your moments where you feel like, why am I doing this? Nobody cares. But, dude, keep please doing it. Because I tell you what, I listen all the time. I listen to Before the First Cup with Jules. I listen to Kevin Blanche. I listen to Nuclear Hot Seat. I may not listen every single day as much as I want to, but I tell you what, I listen.
You listen to Kevin Blanche?
What's that?
You said you listen to Kevin Blanche?
Yeah, yep.
I love that man. He
I
doesn't
love Kevin Blanche. Post-ignorance always.
I had him on my show one night, man. He don't pull any punches, brother.
Oh, no. I've had him on my show a few times. In fact, when he was on my show, I said, hey, man, you should do your own show. And then he started with post-ignorance on UCY, and I was like, what's UCY? What made you go there? And then so I started listening to UCY, and I'm like, man, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what everybody needs to be hearing religiously, because we have been brainwashed and indoctrinated. We need to be inserted back out of it's just about education. Okay, if you're ignorant, man, which is not knowing anything, then you're retarded. But if you know and you don't care, you're stupid. You know? And I don't think enough people really know what's going on and how deep the rabbit hole goes. But then it goes into inevitability.
But here's how I look at it. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please. I can go on.
45, I say everyone knows. 10% cares, 3% are willing to do something about it.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, there is only 3% in the United States that are willing, but there are people all over the world who are just waiting on us to revolt so they can revolt.
Got it.
It's a chain reaction.
That's what they're scared of. They're scared if the United States stands up and says, hey, enough, the rest of the world will go, well, if the biggest, baddest army in the world said no more, well, then hell, I'm on board. I'm rolling with
Think about it. Americans, they don't question their tax dollars. They don't think that, what do you mean I'm funding the war on terror? They don't understand that their money goes to this military that you have no idea what it's doing. It's creating DARPA chips. It's creating RFID chips. It's putting military in.
Can we touch on that point for a sec?
Well, in addition to that, too, there's the entire concept, like I covered with Doug Valentine recently, about how all the drug dealing that goes on throughout the world is basically intermingled with all these agencies that we're funding as well.
You got it.
And, if you just think about that particular one thing, in this country, there's the illicit drugs laws, there's, you can't use heroin, you can't use cocaine, you can't use marijuana, you can't use, but, they'll lock people up for having small amounts, but our government and the organs of that government are around the world distributing it, propagating it, guarding crops in Afghanistan, for God's sake.
Paying for it when it burns down.
That's right, reimbursing the farmers who are growing the chemicals that later on end up in our streets as heroin. I mean, come on.
That's what. Yep, you're absolutely right. And they're doing it illegally. Like if I was to turn around and have off-bank money shore, off-bank shore accounts, that would be illegal for me to conduct business in certain ways across, in our country if I was doing certain things. But they're making it through that TPP to where if you're a corporation in China and you buy into stocks here, you can control the political democracy here as well. So I think that would be pretty crazy if we get a president elected in office here based off other countries' votes. Don't you think that's pretty crazy? Because that's what it's coming to. And you're absolutely right.
We've always been underneath the crown. We never broke.
Yep. Always.
Never broke free.
Never have we. When
And I also
Lincoln was in office, that's why we had the Civil War. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's why we had it, is because, we didn't want to do part with that original Louisiana Purchase and put our lands up for, collateral. And then that's when the Union won against the Confederate Army, and we ended up losing, and he claimed General Orders 100, the Lever Code, and made everything federal property. And that's why you have federal post offices everywhere, and it's all claimed to be federal property now, and which enforces this maritime martial law type of status quo, which is actually goes all the way back down to the English law, which is Magna Carta in Europe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. It exactly goes back to there, and we got out from under their thumb, I should say, to some degree. But the reality of our financial structures, the reality of the way that the population was being handled in this country and everything else, we are still enslaved and indebted to them.
You're right. Well, when you put in maritime law, it means that everything is a corporation and up for trade or up for sale. And that's what we are. We are complete slaves to this society.
And that includes every single human being.
Thank you. You're on the market.
You got a Social Security number?
You're creating a debt every day.
Yep. You got it. It's scary out there. And I feel lied to from my parents. That's why I keep saying it's regurgitated bullcrap. It's all regurgitation over and over again. All right, life's a bitch, you marry one and then you die. And you pay taxes. That's what I've been hearing my whole life from all my elders. So basically, they were lying to me. Because the 16th Amendment means that the tax code was never ratified, so the IRS is like actually the mafia going around bullying people around, okay, so that they can basically illegally rob people, but say it's legally. It's actually a voluntary tax. So if everybody...
We went through that too, how slaves can't own property. You think you own your land and your house, but, don't pay your taxes for 5 or 10 years and see what Uncle Sam sends to your door. You won't even take your pictures out of there.
I said it to my friend. I said, hey, if I buy this stack of cigarettes and I hold on to it and never open it, you think I'll have to pay taxes on it next year?
Don't let them know you never opened it, because if the price goes up, then they'll get you for trying to jack with their...
You're probably right. You totally will. You know what I think is going to happen, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and then I'm going to get off the line, because I know you guys got probably other callers. This is what I'm thinking. I think what they're going to do is they're going to, because of the global currency and the gold standard and all these things, are kind of like, there's not enough gold in the world to be able to distribute out to a 10 billion populace. So that's probably why they want to bring the populace down to 2 billion. But then you start thinking about digital currency, right? Well, what they'll probably do is make everything really cheap, but based off your health status, based off the prices of what you got. So if you got high cholesterol, you can eat that pork rib, okay, but it's going to cost you more because of the Obama health insurance. All right? And so because the government's going to be helping you out with your health insurance, and that you're basically putting yourself at a risk of buying cigarettes or eating these things all the time, it's going to cost more for you than it would, like, let's say somebody who was just doing it on a Saturday, once a month.
Yeah, and that's when you get the racketeering, because that guy who only does it on Saturday is now buying 50 cartons of cigarettes.
Yeah. You're right. I could totally have it. You know what? You're right.
That's where my mind goes. Okay, well, if it's going to cost him less and I can get him to buy 50 until we burn him up, then we'll move down to the...
You know what? I'd like to live near you, and we can start a little scheme going on. You think on the right level. You're like a politician.
I'm getting paid on the stage, baby. We'll burn your name up. Take them off. Burn up that credit card. Go give me 50 cards.
Burn that shit up, and then we're going to burn down their White House, too, and tell them to get out of here.
I never intended on paying any of that money back anyway. You were dumb enough to
that's
give
another
me...
thing. I want to point this out. Everybody complains about the problems with the president or Congress. It's the Federal Reserve. You get rid of those guys. You sit there and tell them, you know what? I don't know. Like, their monopoly money is already fake anyways. So whatever debt we have was really through them, so they should be arrested. I don't think America should be in debt because every citizen really doesn't have anything to do with it. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's a complex situation, but it really does tie into the Federal Reserve, and I think a lot of people should know that that is the enemy number one.
Well, we can't get rid of the enemy at this point. It's gone too far. Even getting rid of them won't fix the problems they caused now.
You know, I've been saying this too, and you're right. It's like, it's too late. You hear those air raid sirens? I hear them. Fukushima. You got, that nuclear waste site, leaking in New Mexico. You got West Virginia.
I didn't even hear about that one.
Oil still. They never talk about that anymore, but I live right down here, and it's still affecting things.
Still washing up.
I live near there, so I know all about it.
Yeah, and that's still a big old, right under the carpet kind of deal.
Nothing to see there, folks,
Nothing to see here, folks.
Hey, did you hear about the spill? I forget where, but they gave all the people in the town a free pizza coupon to shut them up.
Are you serious?
And the people...
I did hear about the little oil spill that happened. They made a flash in the pan, and then I'm hearing about
a large plain pizza with a small drink, and everyone shut up.
Where in the hell was that?
I don't remember.
Don't worry about your fishing.
The fluoride is kicking in that town. I'm telling you.
I don't know, but it's a small town. It's a small town. But here's the worst part about that one. People actually petitioned against it, and the people of the town told them petitioned to close that petition.
That's if we clean it up.
That's what we're coming to, where if you're a thinker, you're shut down. The whole entire city is your enemy now. Like, we're all Illuminati soldiers.
Well, no, it was people outside. It was people
call them Illuminati soldiers, and we're the revolution.
No, it was people from outside the town.
Oh, really? Outside the town called them?
Yeah, and the people of the town petitioned to close the petition down.
Oh my God.
I thought it was one of the funniest stories I've ever read.
And meanwhile, what we're talking about here is probably GMO-ridden and, steroid-ridden pizzas and probably a soft drink. Probably a soft drink that's loaded with, dead baby fetus stuff in it and everything else. But, take your stuff and eat it. Eat your poison. Be good, boys, because, we still can
I remember what it was.
I heard you guys the show with the celebrity meat. You could be eating celebrity meat.
I do remember what it was, and there's a correction I have to make. They were fracking, and it caused a wildfire that burned for a week.
Looking for lithium or?
Yeah, but the fire burned for a week, and the water was poisoned.
Oh my God!
But go take your free pizza. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, you keep drinking that water.
Break-dated milk.
It's pretty bad when you poison a whole town and pay them off with pizzas.
And then have the town come to your aid.
It's gotten to the point where it's like, what do I do? Do I cry about it? I mean, I know it's all happening, and I have no choice but to laugh now because, you ever seen like those type of people where, they know what's going on and they kind of like seem insane. They just laugh like at anything. That's what that does to you afterwards.
Well, you know what, man? If you listen to me, then I say it all the time that I need to apologize to all those guys that had tinfoil hats on about 20 years ago.
Yeah, we really do.
Because the CIA is giving messages into my brain. Yeah, they are.
They are.
They're They're watching you.
I've been talking about
they are.
Man, I've been talking about this stuff for so long, and then to sit there and you start finding out as the internet like progresses even further into this like social networking scheme, you tend to find out that you're not the only person that knows nor thinks like this and puts two and two together, because that's really what it is. It's like, this is one of those things where you read an article, and then it starts getting your brain rolling a little bit about thinking a little deeper of what might be possibly going on. And then before it was just books and news articles, and, you know, you really had to dig for this stuff. And then as the internet has progressed, I mean, it's gotten phenomenal to be able to find out the truth and compare to the disinformation, and then actually see, like, I'm not crazy. Like, you guys are all retarded.
Yeah.
Man. You know what I didn't ask you to do is, do you want to identify yourself?
Yeah, I'm Judas Crowley.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I'm sitting there listening to you and I'm going, wait a minute, I know I've heard this voice before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just giving you guys a jingle and totally, you know, throwing out some feedback. I love what I'm hearing, and I just wanted to keep the conversation going juicy with some hard-hitting facts.
No, and you're doing great, man. I'm just, this is one of those shows where I don't even want to say much because I'm just listening to you, man.
Well, you know what? We're all feeding off each other, so it's helpful, you know, and we all have a lot of good points. I mean, that's another reason why I think this is going so good, is because we're all well-rounded at what we're talking about. We're bringing a lot on the table, and, you know, this is bringing into, you know, it's opening up doors and for further conversation into other areas, you know. What we're living in right now is a repeat of Nazi 1932. You know, everybody is thinking it's fine. You know, technology is great over there. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and degrade America well, actually, we're kind of great, like, shady. I mean, our entire, like, trail of history is nothing but a bloodbath. But, like, when the Nazis were doing their thing, and really I should just say Germany, they were like 50 years or 25 years scientifically ahead of everybody else. They were practicing already with, like, robots, missiles, and also mind control and how to get mass. It's called crowd psychology. And
yeah,
really
it's been perfected.
What's that?
It's been perfected now.
It's been completely perfected. It's in your TV. It's not kidding. It's in music now. There's no, like, movement now of musicians. You ever notice that?
Well, I got to say that, you know what, I want to address that real quick. It is sad to me that there's no longer anything called an artistic movement. It all, and I'm almost angry at myself at this point, because I used to listen to this stuff and enjoy music and enjoy movies and enjoy, you know, TV shows and everything, and now I can't anymore. Because I see
all pollution. Right, you're getting brainwashed every commercial to where you actually know it hurts. I mean, if they're going to sit there and say they're not using MK Ultra, have you ever known what brainwashing is? It's where you hear something repeated over and over and over again.
But that's insanity. No, that's the definition of insanity.
Well, no, that's doing something over and over
again. Is to repeat the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right. I messed that up.
Subliminal is, it goes like this. So so it's like,
well, what you're talking about is
below the threshold of consciousness, that become effective subconsciously by stimulation. So, yeah, below the threshold of consciousness that becomes effective subconsciously by repetition, all right? And so it basically becomes stimulated by repetition, and the government knows this and uses it against you. That's what I threw in there. And then the sanity is the soundness of mind and judgment. So we need to be aware of the soundness of mind and judgment so we can see through the iron curtain in front of our eyes so we can question the truth.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what else, you know, what you're talking about there, the repetition and everything, that's what they called actually psychic driving. And what they used to do is, and if you don't believe me, go ahead and look it up.
Oh, I believe you, and I love it already. And I'm totally going to check it out, too, because that's already stringing up other ideas. Keep going.
No, but the thing is, this was the type of stuff that was used in the MK Ultra programs, but believe me, they were not the originators of the ideas. That's for certain. And you're very correct about the idea that we picked up. We didn't just pick up rocket scientists, okay, at the end of World War II, even though we all made agreements that we weren't going to. We didn't just pick up, doctors. We picked up psychiatrists. We picked up propagandists. We picked up every single, you can imagine. the amount.
Russia got most of them, actually, but they got a lot of the good ones, and we got a lot of them, too. And you're absolutely right. From everything that you can think of that you're seeing today, from DARPA to psychology to even psychic, that's what the Thule Society was psychic mediums channeling certain kind of energy to get information. And then that's where it goes down to, okay, well, what are these sacrifices for?
Wow.
That's what I started thinking about.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to bring up the topic. This was just trending, Garden State, mall shooting.
Right now?
Yeah, right now, 35 minutes ago.
Where at? Because I'm from New Jersey originally. Where are we talking about?
The garden, Panamas.
Another government conspiracy.
Paramus.
Paramus, yes.
Totally another 9/11. Was it a gun shooting or?
We don't know. We just know from people at the mall that cops were sent in and they were told to leave.
I think it's like the third one this year.
At least, yeah. I mean, I can think of at least, let me think here for a minute.
How come can I ask a question? And
yeah.
All of us know the answer already, but for the people who don't, how come this started when people started talking about gun control?
Well, that's exactly why. Because if there's so much gun violence, they have to keep pushing for basically disarming people, that we are a threat to our own selves.
I mean, think about this from Sandy Hook on. How many have there been?
Oh, there's been all kinds of stuff, even that
actually, it was Aurora, Colorado first, the theaters, and then it was Sandy Hook. And Sandy Hook was like deemed that if you even discuss the investigation beyond that point, you will be federally investigated. And that if anybody has any, that right there is a red flag. All right, and then they tore down the school, but they never tore down Columbine. They never tore down any other school that had a shooting, but they did on this one. And now they even went in Connecticut and started doing gun confiscations. And you're a felon if you don't register your gun. And even it doesn't matter now. And it's just crazy. And you think that's not going to go nationwide if we have a bunch of retards that don't know history and what the Second Amendment is really about? And I mean, I'm not trying to put it out there like I'm, calling everybody a retard that's listening. I'm saying, like, if you're listening and you know what we're talking about, or, you're listening and you're putting two together and be like, this makes more sense than CNN, then, great. You're one of us, you're a part of the revolution. It's the individuals that you go to your checkout lane and you're like, hey, what do you think about Fukushima? Who's that?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's a multifaceted thing, too, because the fear, the amount of keeping people contained and the amount of keeping people from engaging with one another and being social creatures, because human beings at their very base nature are social creatures. And the more that can be discouraged by making sure that, listen, if you don't stay in your home and if you go near other people, they may be suddenly dangerous. It is a very useful tool to keep people disconnected, to keep people separated, because the divide and conquer strategy, there's no reason to fix what ain't broke. Okay? Exactly. And they have used this for, again, since the beginning of time, it has been used.
Create a problem and then go fix it. And take away a little rights in the process.
And I hate to say it, but the Hegelian dialectic is a very useful and valuable tool. It really is.
It is.
It
is. It's either, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, as much as it can be used for the worst ways possible, it actually is one of the most useful tools today. I hate to say it, when the internet goes, you better kiss all this great information goodbye, because you better start going to coffee shops and talking with your friends and bringing back that intellectual conversation that they no longer have anymore in society.
See, and that's what I really hope to sort of inspire with people is the interaction with one another. Because if we don't start to do that, we're going to be left with nothing. This whole internet construct could disappear tomorrow.
You know what it is? is monitor yourself. Everything's good in moderation, even moderation in yourself. Don't become your iPhone. Don't become your Android. Get rid of your cell phone.
Sure.
Go back to landlines. All right, go visit your friends and knock on a door. And I say have a desktop at home like you used to do. And then when you're at home, you're on the internet. And when you're going over friends' houses, you know, you're actually interacting with people and not being distracted and being a cell phone. So lifeless.
James or Chuck. Sorry.
I'm going to actually let you guys go. I really appreciate it. I love you all, and keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to go. My phone's about to die.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming
Thanks
on,
for
and I
calling.
loved everything you had to say. So
Thank you.
drop in anytime.
And I'm going to keep listening, and thank you. Thank you again. And I'll keep listening basically every morning. You guys are great. I love this UCY TV. I promote it all the time. You guys are awesome.
Thanks,
I'll
man.
talk to you the next time.
All right. You take care of yourself.
All right, brother. Later.
Later.
James.
Well, James actually dropped off the call, so.
What's the number?
Oh, it's 718-717-8296.
Okay, I've got, somebody who wants to call in. Can you repeat that?
Sure, 718-717-8296. And they can drop in, I'll put them right on.
Okay, when did James leave? I got lost in the conversation.
Yeah, see, that's the thing there. Judas Crowley was really running for a bit, so, I let him go. I mean, he wasn't making any points I didn't want to make myself, so, you know what I mean? It was perfectly fine by me, so I had no problem there. But, sure, if we got another caller that wants to come in, come on in. You know, guys in the chat room, I can see you guys are getting active in there a little bit. You know, come on. You guys want to join in the conversation? Please do. You guys know the number over there. Come on in.
He messaged me, when I asked the question, and he answered. He just messaged me with the answer, and I asked him to come on to sort of explain it.
Yeah, please do. I mean, this is totally open forum, man. It's free for anybody to come on. You know, just like I said, I sent out some invitations. James Impending from NWO Truth Radio put out an events page to try and get people to come on with us tonight.
I shared the link onto my Facebook page.
Appreciate that too. You know, we're trying to get as many different views, and I'll tell you what, if you don't agree with us, you can join in too. It's fine too.
Oh yeah, jump in. We'd love to debate the topic.
Absolutely. You know, if not, if nobody else is going to jump in, I mean, we'll just continue on with our conversation. That's fine too.
Okay, what topic did you want to bring up next?
Well, you know, we got totally sidetracked by everything we were discussing before, but I was telling you that I see that this sort of very apathetic group of young people now that I don't really know how to reach, because I can't even get them to look up from their iPhones and look up from their tablets and.
So here's my idea then. Don't make them. And make it available to them where they don't have to put their head up until they're ready.
This is a good point, but
everyone moves at their own pace.
No, absolutely, and I understand that. And just like I've said, you know, throughout my lifetime, I've gone through a lot of changes. You know, initially when I was younger, I saw things in a certain way, and now I see them differently. And we do have another caller join us, and you are on.
Yeah, well.
Just do me a favor and shut off your radio because you're behind us there.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry about that. Am I live or?
You're live, bro.
Hey, Brandon.
What's up, Dylan? How's it going, bro?
Pretty good. Sorry to spring it on you. I just wanted to see if you could explain it better than I could.
Oh, this is Brandon.
Yeah, actually.
Brandon Council. You want to tell everybody who you are?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm from NWO Truth Radio. While you're sleeping, late night show. You guys can check it out every Friday at midnight, 11 Eastern. But yeah, thanks for taking my call and stuff. And just wanted to touch on something real quick. You had mentioned, you're asking basically why the gun control thing, excuse me, was the way it was after Sandy Hook and stuff like that. And basically it comes down to 1948. There was something called the Smith-Mundt Law that was passed, And this law was meant to protect the public from political propaganda in order to persuade the public into political agendas, I guess you could say. Never waste a good crisis, that type of thing. So now with the Smith-Mundt Act, it made it legal for them to not only cause these crises, in order for them to implement this propaganda, but it also, made it legal for them to distribute that news as propaganda as well. So, and this came about because they wanted a commission's report, like the 9/11 commission's report. They wanted an inquest done on the Sandy Hook thing there, and I guess they wouldn't go for it, so they initiated something called Operation Hollywood, which again you could find underneath the Smith-Mundt Act. February 29th, March 1st of 2013, they reduced that law to an act. An act is anything meant to infringe upon a right. The law, obviously, as we can see with the original one, it's passed in order to protect the people's rights that have already been implied. So, again, people who don't exercise or adhere to these rights, they will not have them. So.
See, and I think that's a useful construct also because it does, perpetuate the idea of fear and disconnection among the populace as well. And I think that also makes it a useful tool. But it's very interesting that you bring this up because, for years and years there have been studies about the uses of newsreels and the uses of news reports and how it was perfectly acceptable for them to stage these events.
Hey guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah, certainly. It was useful for them to stage events in order to film them, in order to push them out in the public's mind. And I find this a very interesting piece of information, though. Where did you find that information, Brandon?
Oh, I study law and stuff like that, so and propaganda as well. I'm pretty well versed on propaganda and pre-Nazi Germany law and basically pre-Nazi Germany political. The political attire that was there prior to Nazi Germany it was very similar to us. In 1908, Germany actually amended themselves as one of the longest running empires. They were the longest running empire. They stood throughout the reign and fall of France, the Napoleon era, England, Rome, so on and so forth. So, 1908, they declared themselves a democracy, and prior to the installation of the Third Reich, you can see the German, just the political attire that was there. It's kind of like there's an evolution sort of to politics, and you have kind of, I guess, an empire or a kind of like a constitutional republic, to a republic, to a democracy, to a totalitarian democracy, to a dictatorship. And then within that you have, your, obviously democracy is kind of a socialist regime as you have a minority ruling for the majority. And again, that is basically the results of the dereliction of the duties of the people themselves. As, again, the Constitution is not there specifically for us. The Constitution is there for the confines of the government to operate within, and the people to make sure that we hold them to those bounds. We don't do that. We have become very lazy throughout the last couple hundred years, and like you were saying, the propaganda doesn't help either. I mean, Ermin Goebbels there, or Goebbels, whatever his name is, the Nazi propaganda mechanic there, and that's what they're called. They're literally called, propaganda mechanics, and they construct a mechanism for a reality. I just was going over it, actually. I think I just posted something that's pretty interesting. But like Edward Bernays, a lot of people don't understand that, the reason why we get up in the morning and we go for bacon and eggs is because of Edward Bernays, who is Sigmund Freud's nephew. So, you know, like you were talking about, the sort of fear that traps us into that illusion, that fear is kind of, it's bred down into us, through generation after generation. But, I posted something earlier. It says American mind control. It says if you don't take care and take full responsibility for programming yourself, somebody else will and always does. And your beliefs and the world you mentally live in could be nothing but a fabrication for purposes of controlling you, which is, you know, obviously true, because you're absolutely correct with the studies of television and stuff like that. That was implications to make the masses more inept to the government in many different ways.
Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry, I just needed some water.
No problem. You know, when you look at the idea that this stuff has been sort of forced down the throats of our ancestors for generations upon generations now, you know, what do you suggest though is the best way to sort of loose yourself from those confines?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, the answer is very simple. Disconnect. I mean, again, people, you know, they want a mass awakening. They think things are going to happen overnight, and if something does happen overnight, right, and if it does, it will be a constructed revolt. It will be, again, one of those things that are part of the grand scheme of that illusion or that reality that you're living in. What I suggest people do is individually, on an individual level, just kind of very slowly admit to themselves that everything they kind of once known is most likely wrong or a fabrication of some. I mean, even people who look at things in very analytical matters can fall subject to the observer effect type thing. But in a sense, we are all in Plato's cave right now, and I can't imagine a situation any worse than that. So I would just, I would have people be more conscious of their thoughts. Think about metacognition. Thinking about thinking about what you're thinking about. That's basically what it means. Metacognition is thinking about what you're thinking about before saying it. So it's because most people operate just on that one level of either like alpha thinking or theta thinking. They're not on the beta level, the second level, sort of watching your mind from your mind's eye or whatever have you. But I just would suggest that people become conscious on an individual level and don't play into things like the corporate game. I mean, these, everything that people come in contact with on a day-to-day basis, everything from their education to, their work is based on contracts. And, again, they try to make a contract out of your name. And if you let them, they will. They absolutely will turn your name into a debtor's receipt.
Well, from the moment you're born, it basically is at this point, because of the Social Security system and also, things that pre-existed that as well. But it is really relevant, I think, to get people back to, that was a lot of noise. I don't know where that came from, but, to try and get people back to being more human. To try and get back to being the social creatures that we're supposed to be, because I think that the dividing us into the smallest possible categories mathematically and turning us against each other really needs to end. And I think that's something that
I think it's failing. People aren't buying it anymore.
Well, see, you think it's failing because you're starting to see into it. You're starting to see beyond the program. But there are a whole lot of others which I don't necessarily pity, but then again, I have a lot of sympathy for, because there was a point at which I was well immersed in that programming as well,
Yeah.
Most of us still are, too. I mean, even myself and, others, people like to claim that they're awake, but, again, it's not really about being awake. It's more about being aware. You can be awake all day, but unless you're, I mean, you can be a hunter and you can be awake. In other words, you can know how to hunt and you can know how to fish, but unless you're aware and you're a novice, if you're very skilled, then you're going to collect dinner, you're going to collect food to eat, and you're going to be able to survive. It's not much different in the real world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, awareness and action are definitely the pair that are required here, and it's quite the struggle though, because so often you're confronted by people when you try and speak a little truth to them, and I do mean just a little truth sometimes. That that you're confronted by people that decide that they're going to do nothing but try and tear holes in what you're saying, and argue for the slavery that they have accepted.
And oftentimes, if it's not a completely idiotic argument, it's not a bad thing to question what we say.
Oh no, I want to put a question. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
No, I'm saying that's true too. I mean, so some people do question, and they are doing it in that manner that we speak about, and then others are doing it to be condescending. However, I say either way, as long as you're getting their attention. I mean, if you're getting shit for what you're doing, I mean, then I say if you're not getting shit, then you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Or you've finally gotten through.
Yeah, but I mean, there are so many out there that unless you're stirring people up, you're not really doing anything. That's for sure. And the fact that they want to attack you in some cases is really a victory in and of itself.
Well, then I'm not doing enough.
Well,
well, in due time. I mean, everything takes time. And again, it's another thing, another fallacy that people come through and they get discouraged with and disappointed with when they do start to become aware, is that they believe that everybody will follow their frame and their mind, their mindset of thinking, and it's the exact opposite, actually.
You really got to fight to get people to understand it.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing, is that we can't really fight anybody to make anybody understand anything. So is what, the main thing that has to happen is that play of consciousness, that play of consciousness that I speak, that people have to kind of retain over their own mind. When other people observe that one person sitting there controlling their own thought process, and they're like, wow, hey, this person can do it, I can do it too. I mean, like you were saying, that we don't all have to be slaves to this, and most people voluntarily are.
And they don't know it yet.
Yeah, I guess it could be maybe, that little mix between both. They don't know it, and some, I say, 10 years from now, people aren't going to know that they're programmed and all this other stuff. They're not going to know that they're manipulated 10 years from now. It's not going to be like that 10 years from now. You know what I mean? It's going to be we're going to be all more of an integrated type society, more of a, non-bioorganic type society, I guess you could say, non-bioorganic. We integrate technologies into our DNA, so to speak, every day. So.
This is all true, and I gotta say that, watching this evolve, I mean, we are sort of on a high speed sort of evolution now when it comes to the technology and the manipulation of the natural world. So, I mean, but as frightening as it is, I do still believe that the revolution of consciousness is a worthwhile effort. And, even if we only get out there a handful of ideas that make it into somebody's thinking, that make them affect something in the future, I think our job is well done. So,
yeah, it definitely is. Definitely.
With that in mind, I mean, I really, but I do struggle with it sometimes. I got to be honest with you guys, because, it becomes a little frustrating. at times, because when you're talking to people that are not really aware, and they start arguing with you about things that you know are just pointless. The idea that, okay, I'll give you an example from last week because this one still sticks with me. A very nice and very intelligent person that I just met recently was sitting there telling me that everything that's wrong with America has to do with Barack Obama. Okay? Now, I understand why they're saying it.
Good intentions.
And they have good intentions, exactly. And they see that something is wrong with the current puppet show. But they're not understanding that this problem has been there long before we elected this guy, or long before he was selected. Okay, which is where they're tracing things into. And I do want to correct myself and say selected, because election is a fallacy in and of itself at this point in time. But it was really strange for me because I was again struggling with. Listen, you gotta think outside of that box, okay? You realize that the food's not good for you? Do you realize that every time you look up in the sky, you see streaks that shouldn't be there, that weren't there 20 years ago? Do you understand this? Sometimes it's like...
And I bet when you ask that, 90% of people say no.
90% of people don't even look up. Ever.
Well, that's a fair point, too.
At least that's what I discovered anyway. They don't even look at the sky. They don't look at the sun. They don't look at the moon. They don't look at the clouds.
They look at pictures of all those on their phone.
Oh, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, fake pictures. Because they're fake, that's why. Because they're fake.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when I can watch cartoons all day, it doesn't mean that I have any idea what's outside of my door.
Right.
Well, it's the same with watching anything. Let's be honest.
Yeah, true. True enough.
Even good information.
Yeah, anytime you switch on a device that's going to be sitting there talking to you, your brainwaves start to alter into a lower state of consciousness, basically freeing up your subconscious. Makes room for more, basically. Kind of like going off of an SD card instead of your hard drive or whatnot.
Well, right, and engaging in the artificial constructs, also they satisfy that need, because as I said earlier, human beings are social creatures. So it satisfies the need for socialization without the consequence, the pleasure, or the reality of actually engaging your fellow human being. So,
that's what people are most scared of.
Well, yeah, but as I was saying before with the whole, it's a Second Amendment issue, sure, with the gun violence, but it's also a matter of fear. Because the more fear you can instill in people, the more stranger danger you can, infuse into your children, okay, the more they're not going to want to engage any stranger ever. And,
that's right.
It's a,
that's why,
good.
That's why I brought up the, Smith-Munns law there because, the act, because, really, you guys were talking, I heard you guys really talking about, World War II and stuff like that and Hitler and everything. And, it is really a sort of, they say, like, empires stand for about, 500 years or so. And I think that, empires are probably a thing of the past. Everybody likes to think in borders and boundaries and everything like that. And really, there are no countries, there are no flags. I mean, we all seem to get along. Like you're just saying about the moon. I think like last year I started to kind of getting a little interested in that because I look up at the moon and it looks like, it's lit up. It looks like a GPS system. It's lit up and, like a Christmas tree. And then you go and you look at a NASA, picture of the moon and it's all dark and stuff. And it's just so weird because again, you can go out there with your camera, you can take a picture of the moon and hold it up to something that NASA would put up there, and it's completely doctored, and they admit to it being doctored as well. So that's why I brought up the act there, the Smith-Mons Act, because anybody can go there and they can read the law that was reduced to an act, and they can see in which they have made, our government has made it legal to put,
I'll be back again.
Political propaganda into our, into our daily diet of, social media or news, whatever you'd like to call it,
Yeah, this is true. And, I actually stumbled across something last night where I was listening to somebody arguing that the moon in and of itself was an artificial construct. And that it wasn't always there. That the moon itself is an artificial construct that was not always there.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
I don't know about all that either, but I found it interesting.
Wait, what did I miss?
We were just discussing the moon for a second.
How did we get to that?
Because I was talking about people don't even look up at the sky earlier, and how they don't even examine what's up there. But
yeah, but you're saying that the moon, what were you saying?
Well, I was saying that I was listening to somebody explain this. Look, I'm not going to say that I believe everything I hear, because I don't.
But you have to sift through everything.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, is that now we're in the age of filters, really, where you have to filter the information that's coming to you. Because most of it is just part of the background, it's part of the construct, it's part of the creation. And that's why it's so fascinating that he brought up that point about propaganda and how it's now legal to insert it into the stream of information that's going out there.
That should be enough for people to get upset and start doing something.
Oh, if you would think it would, absolutely, but I was talking. It was weird because I've had so many people bring that up to me, different theories about the moon and stuff, and I was talking about it. I think last night on while you were sleeping, and I think I decided to just kind of tickle the fancy of those who do entrust some sort of nefarious purpose of it, and the farthest I'll go, because people, like you're saying, people say some crazy shit to me too, like, we never went to the moon at all, like, well, that's completely bogus. I mean, I would say that we probably went 10 years prior to what people, with common knowledge pertains us to.
Brandon.
So, yeah, but I don't think we went with a rocket.
Nah.
Just added to
Hey, have you ever looked up the Van Allen belts?
Yeah, I know what the Van Allen belt is, dude.
So you got these high amounts of radiation that you have to travel through in the Van Allen belt. And this is why they built the radioactive suits that they wear out in space, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
if they have suits that can withstand the high amounts of radiation from space, then how come the Russians didn't put on these suits when they go to close down Chernobyl? None of those guys are wearing any kind of spacesuit.
Check it out. Actually, I did a show maybe a couple months ago. It was called Nuclear Fission and Nuclear Fusion, and again, there's so many different there's different properties to nuclear material and radiation and stuff like that. So, again, it's most likely probably one of those things. And another thing is the Van Allen belt also is surrounded by the the belt of electromagnetic energy and stuff. And this is most likely, ultimately, I believe that no matter what we're doing in space, and whether it has to do with deep space travel or just going to the moon. I mean, people have to understand, like, you look in the 1980s, there was more shuttle launches in the 1980s than any other type of dispatch from a launch pad at NASA. Now, what is a shuttle? A shuttle is something that it's a bus for parts. You know what I mean? So, for 10 years, where are all these shuttles delivering parts to, and for what reason? You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't account for the International Space Station and stuff like that. And again, that's another thing that I was saying, is that people like to think in like you were saying, votes don't matter, and people are you're absolutely correct, they don't matter, because, again, everybody seems to get along up in space and everything like that. But, I mean, the technology's there. The technology always has been there. I think it was there a long time before we ever recognized it. Like you're saying, the Russians, they were at it a long time prior to us, but, I don't think that hindered our advancements. I think that we probably, on a worldwide scale, we probably always have, had some sort of cooperation with other countries, and I say that because, when you look at things like people will say, oh, well, you know, the moon landing was fake, and then people go as far as saying, like, Stanley Kubrick did it, this, that, and the other. Well, when you study those arguments and you really look at that, the type of cinematography that, Kubrick was doing at that time, fully demonstrated the capabilities of being able to recreate something like a moon landing on TV. However, at that time, there was just like there was for the XL pipeline, there was a bid between China and the United States as being the top bidders for, receiving contract to this. Now, NASA had a bid for the footage of the, Apollo 11 landing and the moon and all that other stuff, and the first bidders, were China, and they won it. So, the CIA and subsidiary corporations of the Crown, such as the United States, they had to fall secondary to China, within receiving that footage. So, I mean, again, they may have broadcasted something that day, but it could have been something completely different. For instance, 9/11, there's certain things on 9/11 that you only have seen on that day. You'll never see again, that type of stuff. But it doesn't mean that we can't strap a laser to a plane and, make, something implode by it. We absolutely can. We see them, all the time on, for instance, the 21 days of shock and awe, we had, 21 days of all systems being online. I mean, that was even space-based and directed energy weapons, or the DO office. So, the advancements in our technologies, anything that we can conceive of, is probably at least 50 years behind what they have now.
Well, yeah, I agree with you there. But caller, you were talking about these belts and how you think that we didn't have.
Well, I mean, I'm totally with them, and I mean they're talking about using electromagnets to be able to make deep space travel. Well, that's kind of UFO-like technology, because we live by three constants, which is time, mass, and gravity. And if you change one of those of the three constants, you'd have to change the other two as well. And electromagnets create their own gravitational force. So hence, they also create a time loop or a time distortion. So time isn't necessarily a constant. It can be distorted and looped. This is the same, hence the idea of like falling off something backwards and then time just slows down. Your, what do they call that? Subjective and objective time, where your mind speeds up and makes rapid electrons fire so that you can grab onto something, so you hence slow time down. Well, you can slow time down into reverse and you can speed time up. Like if you're having a good time, time seems to fly right by and you have no concept of time. So it's only the concept of time that exists, not actual time.
Yeah, if you don't think about,
we're always trying to measure this anomaly.
If you don't think about time, it doesn't exist.
Right.
It does. We try to calculate the anomaly all the time. Time doesn't actually exist. Time, what we think of time. The movement and the change of objects exists. And we calculate this and we call it time.
That's
so
true.
The movement and change of objects can speed up or slow down. Like light. The same subject that when I called earlier, I talked about the speed up and slow down of mass turning into energy and light. This is, AKA, our theory of time, is this slow down and manifestation of mass from light is what we calculate as time.
That's true.
Well, that's my personal belief.
No, I believe you're correct. So,
I mean, it's a little out there to really wrap your mind around it, but this is, I think we did go to the moon with a UFO, you know, and I hate to be one of those UFO guys, but the UFO thing makes a lot more sense than anything else. And plus, there's a lot of anomalies with all the pictures from the moon too. I mean, they have a 1960s hand camera strapped onto the front of the guy's spacesuit. You wouldn't be able to get any footage from that. There's no protection around the thing. You're talking about minus or plus 900 degrees from light and dark side of the moon. Any kind of film in that would be absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just common sense.
That's true.
Well, yeah, again, I don't think that, you know, again,
I don't think the story that we got is the truth.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, that's the reality here. I think that what we were shown and what we were told is not necessarily the truth. But the idea...
You gotta think of it like this. We're in a Cold War with Russia. Mm-hmm. Probably not really, but to play this all out to the minds of the people, somebody's gotta make it to the moon. Somebody's gotta account for all these bombs they built. These IBM missiles. Oh my God, IBM computers? International Business Machine also is the one that owns rockets and other types of death weapons. I can't believe it. You know what I'm saying? So this whole fake Cold War thing, the whole war that's going on right now is all bogus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, it's actually a scene that's in the movie called All Quiet on the Western Front. So all the guys are grouping around and they're having smokes and drinking coffee and they're like, who in their right mind would go to war?
No, I hear you. Yeah. Listen, we got less than 5 minutes left to my show tonight. Okay,
yeah.
Brandon Council dropped away, but, and also James and Pending joined us earlier, both from, NWO Truth Radio. And, I still have Dylan on the line here. And, you know, we're discussing all these topics. And I think we've had a pretty decent little discussion on my show tonight. So I'm glad I did this.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm happy you guys brought me on.
Oh,
I know my theories are a little crazy and they're kind of out there, but
they're not really.
Not really. And I'll tell you what, anytime that I'm on and you want to discuss this kind of stuff and I got open time, listen, man, all day long I can sit and discuss and listen and debate and we can go over stuff. And I'm telling you, bring whatever you want on. Because
it's the deeper spiritual aspects of things that what they would call a cult, but not the necessary esoteric stuff. You know what I mean? But the hidden aspects of our own personality. I mean, the things that we can come in contact on a day-to-day basis. These hidden aspects of our own mind and personality is what intrigues me the most.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say that I don't like calling it the supernatural because it is just part of the natural world. It is part of the natural order of things. That there are many things that maybe are not so easily seen, not so easily understood, but they are still nonetheless there. You know?
And if you ever want to come on my show to debate these things, would love to have you.
Oh, I'm not really doing that much anymore, and, you know, this was a thrill for me tonight. You know, I'm like, oh man, other people I get to shed with my propaganda here. You know? I'm like, man, am I the only one that thinks like that? You know what I'm saying?
No, you know, that is another good point. I do enjoy, being able to discuss with people and at least feeling like I'm not completely all by myself barking at the trees, alone.
I think we all get that way.
Yeah, I walk outside. I talk to anybody on the street. I mean, I can try to bring up a conversation with anybody and I can't even begin to take baby inches towards this kind of understanding. You know, just the whole aspect of being alive. Aren't these the deeper questions is like, why do we exist in the first place? Or why the things are the way that they are? You know, and to go on the whole government thing, there's only really 3 forms of government. And that's republic, protected by some kind of constitution, democracy, and oligarchy. That's all there is. So, of course, they're trying to spread democracy, because if you spread democracy, then you can put your guy in and make it into a dictatorship, a.k.a. oligarchy. You know, because there's no true dictatorship. That would only be one person. It's always ruled by a few people.
Right, and there's
always somebody in it.
And it's all part of the larger club, which is the great oligarchy that actually has rule over every single place and person on the planet at the moment.
Yeah, the Vatican.
Well, you know, that's one of the heads.
Well, there's 3 sovereign nations out there. There's Washington, D.C., there's London, England, and there's the Vatican.
Webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, crystals and fondle slab of choice, I don't know when that was, doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information, because seriously, no one should have just reads